The film begins with a news report announcing that 8 American soldiers have died in Iraq due to roadside bombs. 4 of these soldiers died when their vehicle was hit by an explosion during a fight north of Baghdad. Another soldier died from a similar roadside bomb in Tikrit. In a different event in Baghdad, a roadside bomb hit a unit, killing 2 U.S. soldiers and injuring 3 others. The reporter also reveals that since the start of the Iraq War in 2003, at least 55 U.S. military personnel have been lost. 6 years after 9/11, the scene changes to the White House in the U.S. Journalist Janine Roth is set to interview Senator Jasper Irving. He welcomes her in his office. Janine expected more people to be there, but Jasper assures her that she has his full attention and encourages her to ask any questions freely. Janine tells him that she is there to collect a detailed timeline on the War on Terror, a subject he knows well. However, Jasper seems tired of their usual publishing topics and instead suggests that she think about writing a real story this time. When she asks about the specifics of the story, Jasper tells her about a new strategy being used in Afghanistan. This strategy aims to win not just the war, but also the hearts and minds of the Afghan people. He doesn't share much due to confidentiality, but assures her that her writing about their operations in Afghanistan will help their efforts towards winning. When she asks why he's doing this, he explains that it's his attempt to keep the press better informed. She hesitantly agrees and asks how long their meeting will last, to which he replies, exactly 1 hour. The scene then moves to an Air Force base in Afghanistan, where the U.S. military is based. Lieutenant Finch and Rodriguez are asked about their team's readiness for the upcoming mission. The captain then explains the situation to them. Al-Qaeda and the Taliban have been reduced to small groups, showing that America has successfully reduced the enemy to a much smaller and less powerful force. However, the downside is that they are still a threat, and the U.S. Army must act quickly to neutralize these enemies. The captain further shows them a map indicating that Al-Qaeda in the Badakhshan province is trying to establish a new front. The sad part is that there is no one in the area strong enough to fight the enemy. The enemy is even going from house to house in the specific province, forcing families to give up their sons. The captain details their mission, which involves an air attack into the Badakhshan province. There, the soldiers will set up an operating camp on an 8,000-foot peak that provides a view of the valley below from all sides. The soldiers confirm their tasks, and the meeting ends. The scene then changes to a university in California, where we meet Professor Stephen Malley and his student Todd Hayes. Todd has been called to his professor's office. After some light conversation to create a comfortable environment, the professor tells Todd that despite getting high marks on many exams, he has only attended 8 classes this semester. Todd asks how attendance suddenly affects his grades, and Stephen offers a deal. He offers to give Todd a solid B for the rest of the semester if he promises never to attend the professor's class again. Todd is initially confused and skeptical, but the professor presents another offer. He must attend class every day from that point on and listen to the professor talk about the last 2 students who had given him hope. This might explain why he was called to the office that morning. Todd agrees and accepts the offer. The story then moves back to Afghanistan, where the soldiers are traveling to the province. Lieutenant Adrian and Rodriguez are in the helicopter, trying to stay calm and engaged. They play games and joke with each other to distract themselves from the stress. Meanwhile, back at Senator Jasper's office, he is explaining to Janine their plan to address the military issue. He outlines how the U.S. Special Forces plan to secure key high-ground positions throughout Afghanistan before the snow melts, which would otherwise allow the enemy to move freely. Jasper emphasizes the strategic importance of controlling the high ground, as it provides the ability to observe, the right to attack, and the opportunity to dominate. Janine, however, remains doubtful about the mission's success rate, despite Jasper's strong belief in the plan. Jasper then informs her about Iran's potential actions, including their plans to build nuclear weapons and allowing Wahhabi insurgents to travel from Iraq to Afghanistan via the most direct route possible, across Iran. This suggests that Iran poses a significant threat to U.S. security. Jasper asserts that now that Iran has nuclear capabilities, it is crucial for the U.S. to prevent the situation from escalating. He promises to protect American citizens at all costs. When Janine asks when this strategy will be implemented, Jasper reveals that it was launched 10 minutes ago. Back in the helicopter, Ariane, Rodriguez, and the other soldiers are on high alert. Rodriguez spots an old anti-aircraft gun on a ridge and alerts the others. The captain reassures him that drones had taken pictures the previous night and identified it as an old, rusty 20mm gun with spiked barrels. However, Finch warns that an old, non-functional anti-aircraft gun could still pose a significant threat. Suddenly, the supposed non-functional gun opens fire on the helicopter, killing most of the soldiers, including the captain. The damaged helicopter begins to descend rapidly, and Rodriguez is thrown out due to the turbulence. Finch, realizing his fate would be no different if he stayed, decides to jump from the helicopter and attempt a landing in the snow. The scene then cuts to Professor Stephen's office, where he is telling Todd Todd about his former students, Finch and Rodriguez. Todd, who is rather indifferent, jokingly asks if Finch is African American. The professor urges him to focus and then questions him about his apparent lack of interest in anything. Todd retorts, asking what made the professor think he cared before. The professor reminds him that he used to be engaged in his classes, participate passionately in class debates, and had a thirst for knowledge. Todd initially hesitates but eventually admits that his disillusionment stems from his studies in political science. The professor counters that Todd lacks a comprehensive understanding of these systems' history. However, Todd persists, questioning what he could possibly do that the old elites failed to accomplish. The professor suggests that Todd would likely quit or escape from reality. He also advises Todd that his arguments would be more compelling if they were grounded in experience, if he had put himself on the line in a meaningful way and done something more than just talk. Back on the battlefield, we see the wounded soldiers who fell from the helicopter. Ariane is the first to regain consciousness amidst the heavy snow. He calls out for Rodriguez, but receives no response. Ariane finds himself alone, 3 kilometers south on a plateau. After some effort, he manages to locate his friend Rodriguez, who is severely injured and immobilized. Ariane himself is stuck, with his legs trapped in the snow. The story then moves back to the Air Force Base, where the commander is discussing what to do next. He's upset about the incorrect safety information they had about the mountain. The scene then changes to Senator Jasper and Janine, who are talking about the country's past and future diplomatic strategies. Janine, still unsure about the mission's success, suggests pulling back, but Jasper insists that it's not an option. As they continue their conversation, Jasper explains that if they pull out, Afghanistan would fall back under Taliban control. He emphasizes that the Taliban has become a much more dangerous and powerful group. They plan to destabilize Iraq, leave Afghanistan helpless, and confront a nuclear Iran. Jasper mentions that the U.S. needs a large number of soldiers for the war and asserts that America will spare no time, life, or cost to implement this new strategy. Despite her discomfort, Janine questions why he is so eager to attack the Afghans before they have even launched an attack. Back on the battlefield, Finch and Rodriguez are now in a firefight. Their colleagues at the base are monitoring their situation via radar. They are isolated and waiting for rescue. The scene then changes back to Professor Stephen and Todd, who are discussing the same Finch and Rodriguez currently in the war. The professor reveals that they were his students and had volunteered to join the Air Force. He praises their bravery to take action rather than just complain. The professor remembers a time when Todd was actively involved in lectures and debates, standing firm and defending his position on various topics. He pointedly asks Todd what happened to that version of him, prompting Todd to reflect on his life. Back on the battlefield, Finch asks Rodriguez to try moving his leg a bit. Rodriguez screams in pain as he tries to do so, but this allows Finch to get a clear view of the wound. It's a gruesome and painful sight. Back in Senator Jasper's office, he is discussing Janine's career and the shortcomings of her old publishing company. Their conversation is interrupted when his secretary tells him of an urgent call from another senator. He excuses himself to take the call in another room. Meanwhile, Janine walks around the office and finds a framed print of her past work with the senator, a statement she had taken during an interview when he first came into power. The scene then returns to Finch and Rodriguez, where Finch is still digging in the snow. Rodriguez advises him to breathe and stay calm. The scene flashes back to their college days when Professor Stephen was their teacher and they were preparing for a presentation. As they start, a rude student keeps interrupting and asking repetitive questions. Finch becomes insecure and nervous, but Rodriguez advises him to breathe and stay calm. He does so, and they successfully present their topic. In addition, they announce their decision to volunteer for the Air Force as a way to contribute to their country and give purpose to their lives. Later, the professor takes the students aside and questions their sudden interest in the military. He assures them that their academic brilliance could get them into any school after graduation. They respond by expressing their desire to be part of the most significant events currently happening. The professor, a Vietnam War veteran, is used as a justification for their decision. Although he is not pleased, he accepts their decision. Back to Rodriguez and Finch are still in the field, defending themselves from the enemy. Meanwhile, back at Senator Jasper's office, he receives an urgent call from the general. He excuses himself to take the call, only to receive tragic news about the troops in the field. He learns that the soldiers were unable to reach their destination. Concurrently, we see Finch and Rodriguez in the field, engaged in a firefight with the Afghans. They continue to fight, while their colleagues at the Air Force Base anxiously monitor the situation, aware that the duo is outnumbered. After ending the call, Jasper expresses his frustration at being humiliated by these small tribal gangs, the Afghans. He tells her that he can only ask men and women in uniform to risk their lives to combat these terrorists. After hearing this, she gains a better understanding of the situation, but refrains from asking further questions. Jasper then changes the subject and hastily leaves the room. As Janine is leaving for her office, the scene shifts back to the battlefield where the Afghans are relentlessly attacking Finch and Rodriguez. Chaos ensues as bombs explode and missiles are launched around them. They are safe for the moment, but rescue has yet to arrive. The scene then transitions back to the professor and Todd, who continue their discussion about potential inaction. Todd still believes it's futile to try when the system is rigged and corrupt, but the professor urges him to stop merely criticizing and actually do something to fix the rigged system. Todd questions the difference between having tried and failing to try if the end result is the same. To this, the professor simply responds, "At least you tried." Back at her office, Janine presents her notes to her boss. The only words she has written are, "Whatever it takes," a quote from Jasper. She is deeply concerned about the implementation of the new strategy and the fact that it was launched while they were in the office. Her boss instructs her to treat it as just another story, but Janine believes it's more than that. She suspects that Jasper is using the situation in Iraq as a stepping stone to gain entry into the White House. However, her boss dismisses her suspicions and tells her he needs more than speculation. He also warns her to reconsider writing the story Jasper gave her or risk losing her job. The scene then transitions to the main characters who are shivering in the freezing wind, awaiting rescue. Soon, Afghan soldiers approach their location to attack anything in their path. Previously, they were launching bombs from the mountain, but now they are in close proximity to Rodriguez and Finch. The duo continues to fire their weapons, resulting in an open firefight. Back at the professor's office, he concludes his advice to Todd by urging him to reconsider his decisions as they cannot be undone. As time passes, Todd will get married and his life will continue, but he will never be the same person he is now. The promise and potential are fleeting and might not be there anymore. Before leaving him, the professor advises him that there is no lifeguard watching over him and that he is his own man and an adult. Shortly after, we witness the final moments of realization. Rodriguez and Finch are now hopeless, awaiting the arrival of the Afghans. Rodriguez suggests that Finch should leave him and run, but Finch insists on staying with him. Eventually, they manage to stand up and start to walk. However, as they stand together, the Afghans open fire on them, brutally killing them on the spot. Back at Janine's location, we see her leaving the building and hailing a taxi. She looks at the White House and the numerous cemeteries filled with the graves of honorable soldiers. She sheds tears and sadness for all of them. The movie comes to a close as we see Todd sitting in front of a TV, hearing the same news we heard at the beginning of the movie. American soldiers have lost their lives in Iraq due to roadside bombs. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our video. Watch the next recaps on the screen and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.